lounging, son.
All right, welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan. With me, as always, is my co-host Dylan, and I have my other co-host from Thought Balloon with me. Jen is going to join us today to read a comic by a publisher that she rarely, if ever, reads.
I'm so excited to talk to you about this, Jen.
Yeah.
I really am. This, and then I would also like for you to read like some kind of Moon Knight. I don't know which one yet though, but I think
I read one already.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I didn't like. I don't know which one I read.
I wouldn't have recommended Moon Knight to her either, though.
I would have.
I don't know. Like, I already know the next book. I already know the next book that I think you would like, Jen, and it's Strange Academy. That's a book that.
Yeah, you know what? Someone has been recommended to me on Instagram. Like every time I post something, they say, "Read Strange Academy, read Strange Academy." So I'll try.
Because it's so far removed from like. I mean, if you know of Doctor Strange, I think that's all you really need to know. I mean, you can kind of know the other characters, but it's really about these new kids, right?
Yeah, it's about the kids.
It's like Harry Potter in the Marvel Universe, so you don't really need to know anything else. And I think that, like, you love Scotty Young, so this might be next to Middle. I know you love I Hate Fairyland, but for me, it's like Middle West. I really love his writing on that book.
I just finished Middle West. Oh my god!
Don't tell me the end. I'm waiting for the hard. I'm waiting for the hardcover. Don't
I was waiting too, but I had volume 3 just sitting around, and I just banged it out in like one sitting. And dude, I mean, the second portion of the story was it kind of felt a little falter. I felt that it was a little soft, like going in and coming out of it. But then like every issue from the last volume, dude, all of it was good. All of it was so good. It finishes off really strong. I was concerned a bit after reading the second volume, but the third volume really delivers.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's Scotty Young, so Scotty Young just over here, just making everybody look sleepy and angry at the same time. That's like his thing.
Sleepy and angry.
Yeah, that's like the worst, right? It's like you're sleepy and angry, and then it makes you grumpy, and then it just sets the mood for your entire day. That's like the story of my life for the past 2 weeks. All right, so we talk about Alias.
I'm always tired. Every time I talk to Jen, and I talked to Jen earlier in the morning usually, so you still see the sleep in my eyes. Yeah, let's talk Alias. So I'll read the credits off first. It's interesting because when this first came out, there was no Jessica Jones attached to the title. It was just Alias, but because of the TV show with Jennifer Garner, I think that's why they added the Jessica Jones to it, so that there's no confusion, right? So Brian Michael Bendis is the writer, Michael Gaydos is the artist, Matt Hollingsworth, colorist. Bill Sienkiewicz does some art in one of the stories, Richard Starkings, Wes Abbott, Oscar Gongora on letters, and all those covers are by the great David Mack. Stuart Moore was the editor on the series.
David Mack.
I don't know which, yeah.
You want to talk about doing stuff with watercolor that is just absolutely stunning? David Mack.
You know who's really good too is Zoo. I'm hoping I'm saying it's Zoo, I think is her name. She was next to David Mack's booth at LA Comic Con, the one that we all first of all, she's a sweetheart, dude. She is so nice and so humble. Like, I ended up chatting with her for like 20 to 25 minutes, dude, at that show. And she really kind of has a similar aesthetic as David Mack. He also is a really nice guy. But yeah, you should check her stuff out too. She's been doing a lot of covers. I wish they would both do interiors, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. Who wants to take the lead with Alias?
Jen, please.
Yeah, sure.
I would love it.
All right. So it was good. I liked it. Of course, obviously, because it's me, I think there's still some stuff that I have to there's some details that I disliked, but overall it was a nice experience. But I think I'm a really harsh judge, because it's Marvel, so I'm already stepping back a little bit and being like, but yeah, it was overall really, really great. I'm not a fan of the art inside. Honestly, I think some panels are a little bit confusing, but I really love that you didn't need previous experience with superheroes to understand the story.
Mhm.
That was the biggest part for me. Like, even if they mention names and they mention superheroes, they don't like, you don't need to know a previous story or a previous like life event they had or anything like that. You can just jump into the story and focus on Jessica Jones, which I really like.
Yeah, and that's what I really love about the series. I mean, I was late to this. I had heard about the book. My first like Bendis stuff was his Daredevil, and I feel like that was coming out around the same time. I'm not entirely sure. I can't remember the exact year, but this book, the reason it's so easy to jump in, and the reason I suggested it too, is because like this character did not exist before the series. They retroactively added her to where she had been a part, and she did have these relationships with characters previously, but that's all created within this book. So, and I love her character. She's so flawed, and that's one of the things that Dylan can attest to as well, is the characters in Marvel are flawed. They are not perfect. They may be superheroes, but they have problems. DC, you don't see that as much. Like, you don't see the flaws in the characters. And I think that that's why a lot of people tend to gravitate maybe towards Marvel more, certain types of readers. I mean, I like them both equally. I kind of, look, I hate to say this, I kind of agree with you about the art.
It's a little rough.
It is,
Everybody looks a little...
Yeah.
But this is Michael.
Rough.
This is Michael Gato's like early work. If you look at the book he did with Bendis a couple years ago at DC, Pearl, that's the same artist. You could I don't even think you'd be able to tell that it's the same artist. Like,
wait, Pearl is the same artist as this one?
Yeah.
Okay, it's like not the same thing at all.
Right.
I really like the art in Pearl, but in this one, not so much.
Yeah, and that's fair. I can agree. Artists. That's the thing about artists, right? Like, the more you do it, the better you get. Some artists get worse, in my opinion. But there are some artists.
Yes. Oh my god. Yes, it's so true.
So,
and he's like one of my favorite artists too. But like his recent stuff has been like, dude, you created this, like, or you did this, and it was like the most phenomenal thing I've ever seen. And then, like,
did you not see that art?
He can't draw kids. He can't draw kids.
Dude, did you not see the double-page spread for the new book, the mystery book? You didn't see that? He's coming back to Marvel?
He's coming back to Marvel. What's he doing? Hold on, I gotta look this shit up.
Look at the art in this one.
Whoa!
Come on, dude. I know you like that. That's dope. That's a dope piece.
It's alright. It's cool.
Shut up. You know you like it. It's good.
I can't do it. Everybody has square fingers. I can't.
What about Kirby's characters had square fingers?
Well, that's Kirby. Kirby can do what he wants. I can't get into John Romita Jr. Like,
that's fine.
He did Daredevil. I loved it. Phenomenal. I love this fool. But then, like, all of a sudden he does something like Eternals, and it just doesn't work for me.
We talked about this. It was the coloring. Anyways, let's talk about Alias. I don't want to sit here and bash the great John Romita Jr.
Sorry.
It's going south. I don't want to do it. Let's do it.
Okay, but
you talk about Alias, yeah. What was this? This is your second time?
This is no. I read the first 6 issues of this right before the Jessica Jones show came out, because I had no prior knowledge. Like, all of a sudden Jessica Jones, I'm like, oh, who the fuck is that? And then Kristen Ritter, I've been following her career. Like, she has a great. She's been in a bunch of stuff. So I followed her and I watched it. And this is actually my first full experience with Jessica Jones. I love it. The flaws are great. What I really like is like the honesty in the internal monologue.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is builds for like a really great noir comic where it's just inner monologue. So you develop a relationship with the character early on, because the character is essentially dumping on you, right?
Yeah.
You, anonymous person, as a reader. And what I like about it is the honesty in it, because when she's confused, like, without there really happening like too much on the actual page, because these are very minimalist pages. Like, you know what I mean? Like, some of them are literally the same panel over and over and over and over, and it's just different word bubbles. And then you have like that whole 1-page spread where it's literally just one big picture separated into like 6 boxes, and then the structure of the thought bubbles. Dude, that's some of the. This is I love how this book is like presented to you. You know, it's as that noir vibe. The art, like I said, like I agree with Jen. Like it was. Some of it was a little rough, but it doesn't take it doesn't take away like the sequencing and the pacing of the story and the dialogue. Fantastic. Now, as far as the story itself goes, like I said, like I haven't read this since Jessica Jones came out, right? And that was what, like 6 years ago already.
The show?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. I don't know.
Yeah.
I read this before the show, and that's why I'm like, holy fuck! They really adapted her character.
Mm-hmm.
Kristen Ritter. They need to bring her back.
Yeah.
If they have her in the MCU.
You see, I watched the show before reading. I watched the first season of the show like years ago, and then that's why I was like still interested in. I liked it. I mean, I thought it was like an interesting character in the show. So when I read this book, I was kind of expecting the same like vibe, and I thought the vibe in the book is a little bit different than the show. It's not bad, but it's different. So I was kind of like surprised, and my expectations were not the same as what I would have expected from the TV show, you know. But that's a great thing of like, I mean, I understood the similarities, but I also understood the differences between both Jessica Jones from the comic book and Jessica Jones from the TV show, you know.
Yeah, I think that what's really cool too is like I couldn't remember what was in the first trade because it's been a while since I read it, but like the Purple Man, how he fucks with Jessica Jones, and like Dylan, I don't know if you've read the other volumes, but the subsequent volumes, I suggest both of you read them because it really I think it's better than the first volume, right? Like he's creating this character. We're learning who she is. He's got to kind of, I think, connect it more to Marvel so that people will kind of get it, even though he doesn't do it too much, you know. But the Purple Man and what he does to her, and I mean, fuck, dude, like she is such a damaged individual, you know.
Yeah.
She's so self-destructive throughout, and it just continues, man. And like the fact that she's like, and that's what I really love too, she's like a PI, but she's got superpowers. Like she could do something else, but instead she just finds people for, you know, like
she gets a lot of the cheaters.
Yeah, she finds the people that are cheating on their wife or their husband, you know, like that opening sequence of like she tells the husband like what she found, and then he fucking grabs her, and next thing you know, she's fucking throwing that motherfucker through the window. You know, like it's like moments like that I really like, and what she has become in Marvel Comics and how much people have really gravitated towards her. Like she is, well, I guess they haven't really showed her recently, but she's
a mom now. She's busy.
I mean, whatever. But she's become like a mainstay in the main universe, right? Like she became so popular and people really love her character. And, you know, like the growth of her character too, going over the next few volumes, there's another series called The Pulse where she's working for the Daily Bugle, you know, the same newspaper that Spider-Man or Peter Parker worked for. So like there's that, and like she's so interesting, and one of the characters that I've been able to see from beginning and grow, right? Like I wasn't around when Peter Parker was wasn't around.
That's a great thing, what you just said. Like I really feel after reading that comic that this character has she has space to grow. Like it's a great character that Marvel can take, like the writer can really bring more elements to her story, you know. It's they really created a good character for a story that's really focused on character growth, and that's my favorite type of stories, right? So I feel like that's a really different type of things that we can usually find, although I'm not an expert because obviously I don't read Marvel, but I feel like that's different from what you usually find on the shelf.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like if you see the trade, it says Max Comics, right? This is was trying to do their adult line. They didn't do what like Vertigo did with DC, which is Vertigo eventually just became mostly creator owned, but Marvel was trying to take some of their characters and put them in like, you know, R-rated situations, right? Like they did a Punisher book, they did a Luke Cage book, which is really cool.
They did Wolverine, they did Daredevil.
Yeah,
they did a lot of Max line. The Max line was pretty extensive.
Yeah, I mean, so it's kind of a shame they don't still do this because you don't really get mature stuff with Marvel. You know what I mean? Like
And they
DC now.
should.
Yeah,
Because
I mean,
I have the Max comic Punisher. I have it in my bookshelf. I read it, and I liked it, and I felt that's why that's how I
What?
started. Yeah, I have it. I have it in my
Wait,
bookshelf.
what do you
and I
mean that's
read
how
it.
what started? Is that your
Yeah.
first trade?
I was when I started reading Marvel, that's how I started, and then I liked it, but then I was disappointed with
Oh my God.
non-Max comic stuff. So I was like, no, you know what? I'm just gonna let it go.
just blew my
Yeah.
fucking mind.
This is
Read a Punisher book.
I
What
am
the
befuddled.
fuck? Yeah.
I am befuddled right now. I'm so Jen, you just made me so happy. That's
I'm full
excellent.
of surprises, but that's
Yeah, you
fine.
know. I know that you read a lot of different comics. I know that, and I respect the shit out of that. But to hear you say that Punisher Max is in your collection, that you read it and you liked it, that's mind blowing. I love that. I love
Yeah,
that.
I
That's
liked it.
fantastic.
I never finished it. I think because I have I don't know. I have
Well-
a one volume. I don't know if there's multiple, but anyway, if there's multiple, I only read the first one.
Yeah.
And I liked it because it was dark. It was heavy and dark, and it was something that I really enjoyed when I started reading comic, because I read this one at the same time that I was reading Preacher, so it was like really, I like the dark,
Oh, okay.
heavy subjects, But then when I just wanted to explore more of Marvel, I was just disappointed of not finding the same type of vibe in the other comics. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's just like because I know that Punisher Max and a lot of the Max lines were too much for some people. So like I know, right? But
That's crazy to me.
let me ask you guys a question. So the other day, I had a customer, and he wasn't really into comics, but he wanted to get into it, and he was like, "Hey, can you suggest some comic books for me?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And he wanted stuff that was a little lighthearted, and I didn't know how to answer that, so I've been asking a couple
you
people
told
who
me
collects
this.
comics, like, what's your favorite lighthearted comic? Because for the life of me, I mean, there's slice of life comics, and then I don't know what defines a lighthearted comic to me, because I don't think any of the comics that I really like that really hold on to me are lighthearted. Is that weird?
I mean, I
No,
don't
right?
read lighthearted. I don't
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have that in my collection at all.
Like I suggested I Heart Fairyland, and I immediately thought of you, right? But then as I was explaining it, I just heard how bad it sounded to someone who was looking for something lighthearted. It was like, oh yeah, a little girl gets sucked into fairyland and she's stuck there for years. Her body doesn't age, but she ages mentally, and it's pretty lighthearted. And then she starts murdering like unicorns and stuff. And then the guy says, "Oh well, that's not good."
It's funny you say that, because this week somebody asked me to about comics in general, and he asked me I recommended Saga, for example, because it's easy to recommend, and he's like, is there any useless violence, like violence that doesn't bring more growth? I'm like, kind of, I don't know, like violence is violence, like
Yeah.
I don't know, like everything I read has violence in it. It's hard to say like a comic with no violence. I don't know. It was really hard to recommend.
Glory Days had no violence, and I read like 3 volumes of that. Dude, it's like 17 volumes now. I want like a couple of Eisners or some stuff, but it's cool.
Oh, Giant Days.
Giant Days, not Glory Days. Yeah, I said Giant.
Giant Days. Yeah.
Yeah, Giant Days.
There we go.
I totally say Glory Days. Giant Days.
Yeah. Okay. That book I know. That book is.
Yeah.
That book is. I heard phenomenal. I've never checked it out.
It's sweet. It's really sweet. You know what I mean? I can appreciate it. But back to Alias.
Yeah. So you know what I thought was interesting too, Jen? You wouldn't have picked up on this probably because you don't know who Rick Jones is.
Rick Jones.
Yeah, I had no idea what that character. Like, I was just like, it's probably someone who everybody know, but I don't. But I just rolled with it. I was like, okay. Whatever.
Yeah. So he is the kid that was running behind like the fence where the gamma bomb went off when Bruce Banner became the Hulk. He had to run, save him, and that's how saving Rick Jones is what caused him to be behind the fence when the gamma bomb went off, and then he turned into the Hulk. So like he's had a very long.
You could essentially say it's Rick Jones's fault.
It is Rick's fault.
Yeah.
So that's why, so his wife is coming and like asking her to find him, and like you have that juxtaposed with like these snippets of like this book that he wrote, which I thought was really interesting too. So
the Sienkiewicz art was awesome.
I mean, dude,
Yeah, this is
fucking master. I mean, I don't know how he does what he does, and he does it so quickly. Like he was doing that on a monthly schedule with New Mutants. Yeah,
have you seen the sizes of the original prints for like some of these paintings? So when David Mack makes a painting, makes a cover for stuff, he always does like large scale paintings, kind of like Jason Sean Alexander. And these things are huge. These things are like the size of walls. And these like, and the fact that he was able to turn like a lot of these into freaking comic book covers is like the most amazing concept to me.
Yeah, we fucking spend a whole hour talking about that dude and his art.
We'll have a whole Sienkiewicz hour. That'd be a good one.
Yeah, that would be a good one actually. I like the slow build up, you know, the because we get two stories basically. We get the one where somebody's trying to like somebody manipulates her into seeing Captain America undercover and recording him getting his mask on, right? And then like Jones thing. But that is a cool thing though, is that someone like Jen who has like a passing knowledge of Marvel characters, like you have
passing is generous.
Whatever, dude. You know who the fuck,
you know enough. You know who the fuck is who.
You know who Captain America is. So like you get that little Marvel connection, but this really could be handed to anybody. You don't need to know anything about Marvel. I mean, like everybody knows nowadays who Captain America is, but let's say you go back like when the book came out. Not everybody knew who Captain America was because there was no movies. Like unless you were a nerd like us, Dylan, and knew these characters from like maybe cartoons or whatever, like you had no idea. You definitely didn't know who the fuck Rick Jones was. But you can still read this book. You can still recommend this book. And that's what I tell people in the shop, like when they're not really into superheroes, but they're like, oh, I'm curious, but they're more of an indie. Like this is an indie book in my eyes. This feels like an indie book with a couple superheroes dropped in for good measure.
Yeah.
But I think this is Bendis still when he was kind of new into Marvel, still kind of finding his footing. Like you can tell that it's early Bendis. I'm not saying it's bad writing, but you can tell. You can see that he hasn't fully formed into like what he eventually is when he's like a more seasoned writer. I love this book. I will be honest though, I liked it better the first time I read it. I didn't think I think I was more blown away when I read it the first time than I was on this second read. And that's not to say that I didn't like it as much. I just think I realized that I liked the later volumes more than I liked the first volume. And that and I felt the same way with his Daredevil. When I recently reread his first trade, I'm like, fuck yeah, this isn't as good as I remembered it. You know what I mean? Like his Daredevil run's great, but it's like, and I guess that's the same probably for a lot of runs, right? When a writer or a creative team is on a book, they're finding their footing in the beginning. So it's not like you're not getting exactly what the series is going to be. So, but I at the same time, it is a really good. I'd give it an 8. I think originally on first read, I probably would have gave it like a 9 or a 10, but to me, it like,
it was a hard 9.
For me, it's an 8 too. A good 8. Yeah.
It's definitely better than Department of Truth, Volume 1.
Yes. You know what? Yes. I was more interested by Alias than Department of Truth. And Alias, another thing that I really like is that even if some pages have a lot of text, it read easily and quick. It's like you don't have to like stop at every page to like analyze information. Sometimes like some books there's a lot of text and you're like, what did they just say? Like what? And then you have to go back and read again. But with this one, it was really easy going through all the pages, and it's something that I really, really liked about that.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about Bendis' writing too, that a lot of people can say he's very verbose. His stories, his comics, a lot of reading, right? But he does it in a way where I'm not annoyed by it, because he has snappy dialogue, and when it's not dialogue and it's inner monologue or it's just text explaining what's going on, it flows really good.
It feels natural. The text is very natural. There's a double page spread where Jessica's getting interrogated, and the conversation and the escalation of the conversation and the interrogation itself, like, is really well done. I don't know, Jen, have you ever heard of Scarlet by Michael Bendis? The whole Jinx World stuff?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
You probably like that too.
You'd probably like that too. It's very crime noir like this, and the writing in it is fantastic too. I when Ryan was talking about, you see them grow as a writer, like Scarlet was like one of the best things I ever read, and I feel like this is like a precursor to that. So yeah, you should definitely check that out. But yeah, like it's a very natural way of relaying information with a lot of words, because you're right, like sometimes when you look at these pages and the double page spreads and you see all these caption bubbles, all this white, and then I don't know, for me sometimes, like especially being like having PTSD from like the 90s and 90s comics were some of the most wordiest things ever. We're talking about like Magneto be standing in the middle of a 2-page spread and then everything surrounding him is words.
Oh, Chris Claremont. That's why.
Yeah.
I mean, to go back to the 80s X-Men books that I tried to read, I'm like
yeah.
and like I do want to say, like, Bendis, like even his worst book, his dialogue is always good. Maybe the story for me is not always there, but his dialogue is always spot on for me. Like, he gets voices of characters down really well. Like, his Superman stuff was not for me, right? I liked it in the beginning, and then I ended up not really like digging it towards the end. But you can never say that his dialogue is bad, ever. Like, that's his like thing. I think his like claim to fame is his snappy dialogue, and like a lot of people say, oh, his comics are just panels of people talking. There's not action. But I think that then it's just not for you, because some people just want to see superheroes fighting. I care more about the people under the mask and like their motives behind what they do. So I think that that's why I've always really liked Bendis, and I think that that's why like his Daredevil run is so celebrated, because like, yes, Daredevil fights, but it's really looking inside Matt Murdock and how, like, and we're talking about tortured characters, right? Like Daredevil, Matt Murdock is constantly at odds with himself. He's got like, Catholic guilt, right?
The Catholic guilt, the great Catholic guilt.
Yeah. So like, yeah. So that's like one of the things that really always stood out to me about his Daredevil run. And that's why I think that, I'm pretty sure this was coming out at the same time. And I think that this was like really when people took notice. Bendis had books before this, creator-owned stuff. He did some stuff with the Spawn universe, with like Sam and Twitch, the detectives.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Forgot about that. Sam and Twitch is good.
Yeah.
Sam and Twitch is actually really good.
And then his Powers book, which came out, and then he got Daredevil. And once he got Daredevil, like Marvel basically was like, here, do what you want, and that's how we got Jessica Jones. And thank God we have this book, because it's one of the greatest additions to Marvel Comics that I've witnessed since I started reading comic books. And it was such a Marvel character, but at the same time felt fresh. You know what I mean? Like, Jen, maybe you probably don't have that experience with it because like you don't read Marvel, but Dylan, I think could you agree with that? Like, it did.
Yeah. For a while, heroes, events, and villains all felt like it was getting kind of repetitive, right? So the fact you get a new character introduced in such a way where it almost seems just flawless. Like, yeah, she's always existed, but her existence in the Marvel universe is like her existence in the real world, like how we're perceiving it out. She just popped out of nowhere. Then we're just finding out all these things that happened in the past, and then apparently it's canon. Like, you know what I mean? It feels like so natural. It doesn't feel like a character was forced upon us. Like, oh, boom, out of nowhere, this character was just born, and then now, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing sudden about it in its way that. Yeah, it just doesn't feel like it was a new character forced upon us, right? It was just like, hey, there's this character, check her out if you like her, boom, right? Mm-hmm. And then it became this whole thing. Like, I mean, we got a TV show out of it. Like, everybody knows who Jessica Jones is now. It's literally like a comic book household name.
Isn't that crazy to think?
Yeah.
Isn't that Bendis has created Jessica Jones, who everybody
knows. Miles Morales,
mm-hmm. And now he's got Ironheart.
Yeah.
That's gonna come out. Oh, and let's not forget Naomi.
It's freaking Naomi, dude. Yeah.
That is also getting a TV show. Like, that's a testament to his character work, because like you can have a concept, but if there's no character, then you don't care. I mean, that was my issue with Department of Truth, is that I just didn't give a fuck about the characters.
Yeah.
I just didn't care. You know what I mean? Like, and
I personally, I like the outrageousness of like, first of all, flat earthers and then baby eaters and like all this stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah,
It's crazy to me.
But
It,
look,
it
it's
be,
like the idea is fine. It's not that I don't like.
I'm 2 issues behind. Anyway, that's besides the point.
Yeah. I couldn't help it. I had to say it. I highly recommend anybody that's, watching or listening that, this is why I recommended it to you, Jen, is that this is such a good entry point into Marvel in terms of like modern stuff. Because
But there's something I really realized with Jessica Jones is that I really do not care about superheroes. I don't care about Case because like in her backstory in this is that she used to be like you don't really know, but she used to be like a superhero, like Jewel or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, honestly, I don't care. That's not what I want to see for this character. I want to see like, her darkness. I want to see like how she's self-destructive. I don't care that she used to be a superhero. And I think that's really my thing against Marvels, that I really do not like this superhero narrative with the capes and stuff. Like, I don't care about that. But I like that it wasn't focused on that for Alias. It was different.
yeah, I mean, and I think that that's the only reason the superhero aspect was introduced is to show she got powers, right? And then she's like, "Oh, I'll be a superhero," but then she realized, like, well, I can't do it. Like, I'm not that person, and like. I mean, how do you do this book without having made her a superhero? I don't know if you take that element out, if it dramatically changes the way her character acts and the world that she has. Like, that is a part of her story. You know what I mean? And it's a major part of her story because it shows the downfall of a regular person deciding, oh, let me fight crime. I have powers. Let me fight crime. Like, you haven't read the next the other 3 volumes that come after. You'll learn why, like, I think that's an integral part to who Jessica Jones is and why that element couldn't be taken out and still get the character that we get, because that's how the Purple Man gets involved because of her fighting crime and how he just like, because of his power of like being able to control people and how he controls her, like that storyline, dude, is that's a dope storyline.
Yeah, I've heard some pretty crazy things about the Purple Man. So I'm actually going forward. I'm actually going to continue reading with this. Like I said, I didn't finish it, but like there's moments in here that was new to me, like, or that I just remembered. Their breakfast with Carol, Jessica and Carol. I don't know. I just like I said, like I just keep bringing the dialogue and how natural it is. Like there's a lot of small moments in this comic. Like, this is a big book comprised of a lot of small moments, and all the small moments, everything matters, right? I feel like there is no filler. Like, I felt like there was not a single issue in this volume where it felt like a filler, right? Everything was really well structured. It kept my interest the entire time. Like, I read it all last night. Like, I got home like at 12. No, I finally got into bed like at 12, and I was reading it, and I said, "Fuck it," I read it. So I read it in one sitting, went to sleep at 2. But it was great. It was totally worth it. I'm really excited now. Like, especially knowing like all the other stuff, that Bendis has done, like the Jinx World stuff. Oh, Jen, please check out the Jinx World stuff and Scarlet. It sucks because like I don't care for Bendis anymore. Like,
oh fuck. Okay. Yeah.
It's not that I don't care about Bendis, but I'm not excited for a lot of this stuff, and that's totally fine. Sometimes the reader outgrows the writer, or the writer outgrows the reader, vice versa. But this stuff, this is the stuff that I miss. I miss stuff like this. I miss his Spider-Man. I miss his Avengers. I miss I miss a lot of Bendis's old stuff. So I'm probably gonna go on like a Bendis bender. That's it. This way, a Bendis bender.
Yeah.
And read a couple things. Yeah, but thank you for fucking making me finally, catch up with this, because I never got this far as like Jessica Jones goes.
You're welcome. That's what I'm for,
Yeah.
And I feel like not enough people like even like probably know about this book anymore. Like nobody talks about it because it's not. I mean, it's in print. You know what I mean? It's not like it's out of print, but I think this should be one of those books you recommend to people that are getting into comic books. Well, if they're older, right? Obviously not if they're a little kid, but this is. When I get to work, I'm going to put it in my picks because I realize that this should be something like oh, it's a superhero book, but it's not really about superheroes, you know? So it's like a cool way to segue in from indie into Marvel. If you are more of an indie fan and you want to read Marvel, I know you don't want to read Marvel, Jen, but if there was somebody that was like, oh, I love this, I love that, and like, but I really am curious about superhero stuff. Like I like the movies, but I haven't, you know, like this is how you could kind of get in there. And then from there, like it could kind of pique your interest. And then like you see Matt Murdock in here, right? He's Jessica Jones's lawyer. That's Daredevil. So like you have the characters in there. They're just not essential aspect of the book. So
Yeah.
I highly recommend this book to people. It's a dope series. And there's only 4 volumes.
Yeah, I like it too. I think it was a great, like you said, a great entry point to Marvel. Plus, like I think I proved that I'm not like, against Marvel. I'm just against superheroes because I've read like other stuff by Marvel,
Yeah.
like you discovered. But I think that Jessica Jones was a nice refresher of like Marvel is not just about superheroes. They can do great stuff. Maybe you just have to like search a little bit more, but they do great stuff for people like me who just really are looking for something a little bit darker, a little bit more like character driven, I would say.
I mean, I think that Marvel is more character driven than you think. You just don't like the superhero aspect. But
Yeah.
is like if like Dylan and I love Jason Aaron's Thor. That is very character driven. That is not, I wouldn't, superhero stuff is there, but that's all about Thor and who he is and how he becomes unworthy. And then when Jane Foster takes up the mantle of Thor and what she like the fact that she's got cancer and every time she takes the power of Thor, her chemo gets drained out of her. So she's literally dying to save people. You know, that aspect of it is what resonates with me. It's not the fact that, oh, it's now Thor's a woman. Now she's fighting. Like, that's not what draws me into the comics. And that the superhero aspect isn't really what draws me into superhero comics. It's the characters. You know, it's really the people, like I said earlier, like Bendis is up. It's the people under the mask. It's why it's their motives and why they do what they do. And I mean, I guess like if you don't like superheroes, you don't like superheroes. But if you like imagine them out of their costume and you just, you know, just imagine regular clothes, like I think that, you know, I think you would like the writing. I don't think that you would dislike it, you know. That's just my opinion. I'm not trying to force superhero stuff on you. I don't read a comic book unless the characters are interesting, you know?
Yeah.
Like they're wearing a costume or they're not. It doesn't matter to me. If the character sucks, I'm not going to read it just because I don't want to just watch 2 characters fucking beating the shit out of each other. Sometimes it's entertaining in the middle of the story, but like if that's all it is, like there's people that come into the shop where they're like, man, I miss the days where it's just like, you know, you see the superhero fighting the bad guy, and I'm like, but that's boring, dude. Like, why don't you just look at images then? If all you want to see is fighting, then you just don't want to read. You just want to look at pictures of people fighting. Like, that's not what comics is. Like, that's why the writing in comic books is so vastly different than, you know, Dylan, when you and I were reading comics or like the 80s, the 70s, 60s. Like, I've gone back and read stuff from the 40s or the 50s. Like, that shit's, it's rough a little bit to
You'll never catch me alive, Batman. That's all the voices of every criminal from the 1950s and before.
Yeah, man, see? Yeah, like all that shit. Yeah. So
I'm smoking a cigar.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of like going off topic, but you know, all I want to say is like if you're not into superhero stuff and you're more of an indie fan, this is a book that I think you would enjoy. If you do like superhero stuff, this is a book you would enjoy. Like, I feel like this really like covers all bases within the series. And if you guys, you two, I definitely suggest you guys read the other 3 volumes because like it really is one cohesive story and it's phenomenal. So
to me, it felt like an indie book. I felt like this is the furthest you can be detached from Marvel while still being a Marvel comic.
Yeah, agreed.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's not like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. where they're literally dealing with this like superhero shit every day, even though they're not superheroes, right? They're just highly trained, but whatever. But then you have Jessica Jones, who like literally doesn't want to be a superhero in this world of superheroes, where, you know, every time you hear about a superhero, they're off doing great things, and then, you know, there's this feeling of failure, knowing that, oh, I wasn't I wasn't good enough to be these guys, but I'm just gonna go and do this. So it felt like a lot of it definitely felt like an indie comic to me. It didn't rely heavily on the roster of the world as opposed to just the main character itself. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think there was. I think there's very few pages where that Jessica wasn't in it. This was all Jessica, right? Like, you never left Jessica's side. You were there with her for the entire ride of it, and you were just as clueless as she was as the story was unfolding. Whereas in some comics, they do a lot of foreshadowing, or sometimes they'll say, "Meanwhile," and then they'll show you what's going on over here, right? But this is just all Jessica the entire time, and I hope it continues. This is why I'm very interested in it, because it's like you're there for the experience, that the same experience that Jessica is having while everything is happening, right? And I love that. That makes me feel things, and I feel like a lot of indie comics make me feel like that. I'm not saying that Marvel Comics doesn't make me feel like that. As of late, I've kind of been off Marvel, but I just shifted paradigm and went over to DC, so it's not like really much of a difference. But as far as the indie stuff that I've been reading, like a lot of it has been really character driven, and this is testament of Marvel being able to do that. Marvel has done it. So like, you get people that come in, I haven't read comics in years. Like, what do you suggest? I was like, hey, Alias. Let's read this. Yeah. Like, do you like crime? Like, yeah. Do you like, how do you feel about superheroes? Whatever. Okay, here. Yeah, Alias. Alias would be like the thing that I'd suggest.
Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting time at Marvel.
Or anything Ed Brubaker.
Yeah, I mean, look, this was a time period where, like, I would say Marvel more so, and I guess DC, like, they brought in all these indie creators, all these indie writers. Yeah. That's why that period in Marvel and DC is probably my favorite, because we had Greg Rucka, we had Ed Brubaker, we had Bendis, we had Matt Fraction, we had
Rick Remender, we had
all these dope writers.
All these dope ass writers.
They're like, here, take the fucking keys, go do what you do. And
I saw someone on Twitter call them the children of Gaiman.
The children of what?
The children of Gaiman, like they're all the children of Neil Gaiman, like they're all influenced somehow, or like if they all compiled lists, Neil Gaiman is on all their lists.
I mean, I would say more like they are a product of like Vertigo is what I would say.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they ended up writing at Vertigo, but even more like they were on the indie scene. Like Ed Brubaker was drawing his own book. You know what I mean? Like when he first started out, and like they were heavily, like Ed Brubaker says he was heavily influenced by the Love and Rockets, the Los Andes, so like that was heavy influence. But the fact that Joe Quesada took over Marvel, Axel Alonso switched from Vertigo, being an editor at Vertigo on books like Preacher, 100 Bullets, and then he went to Marvel, and they snapped him up. And look what happened because of it. You know what I mean? Like
the dopest shit.
Yeah.
Dopest shit. Alex Alonso was at Marvel. It was dope.
Yeah, I mean, he did the hip hop covers. So
Axel Alonso is the homie.
Yeah. So yeah, again, Alias is really dope. I can't really say much else other than that. It's it's one of the best additions to Marvel comic books in the past 30 years, I would say.
I'm not gonna say essential because I feel like both of you would crucify me if I say anything is essential. It's definitely a noteworthy comic. Yeah, noteworthy. I will say noteworthy. Like, you gotta check it out if you have a chance.
I'll say it's a must read for Marvel fans. I'll do it.
It's worth discovering. It's worth discovering, but I wouldn't go as must read.
For Marvel fans, I said. For Marvel.
Yeah. I guess. I don't know. I can't say anything.
You're not a Marvel fan. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. I mean that's all I got. You guys got any last words on it? You good?
Yeah, just check it out.
And then next week, I guess we're doing Blue and Green, Dylan, right?
Yeah. Have you ever read anything by Ram V? Ken?
No.
You should check out Graffiti's Wall. Graffiti's Wall is really good. It's about some kid. It's about some kid. It's Mumbai, right?
Yeah, it's Mumbai. It's about four different kids.
About four different kids in Mumbai and how they're like coping with like a set of days. Like it's crazy.
It's really dope.
Yeah, it's nice. It's the art is phenomenal. Like you should definitely check it out. And we're reading Blue and Green. And it's about jazz. It's a
Oh.
historical jazz piece. So I'm like really looking forward to it. Yeah, it's gonna be some good stuff. I actually am purchasing it right now.
So we're doing Blue and Green next week, and then Jen and I are going to be talking about Little Russia and Nunavik. Is that how you say it?
Yes.
We're going to be talking about that on the next episode of Thought Balloons, so be on the lookout for that. And all right, well, if you're not already following us, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Comic Lounge. You can follow Dylan at The Dillbot on Instagram. Make sure you throw your comments or suggestions down below, or you can also email us at thecomicloungepod@gmail.com, and make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and hit the bell icon so you're notified every time a new vid goes up. And on that note, we're out.
Later, buds.